Welcome to Football Friday with the Buffs, and joining me today, we've actually saved the best position, some might say, for last. Offensive lineman Parker Hanna joins me, the junior from Stratford, with 20 career starts in just 2 seasons. Looking back at last season, 2019, Parker was named second team All Lone Star Conference. Parker, thank you for joining me today. It's good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
We've obviously been living in quite a different world in the last several months. What has life been like for you?
Well, it's actually just been, slow. Just taking online classes, after spring break started, like that's kind of when everything hit. And that was an interesting adjustment was moving to online, because I'm definitely more of a face-to-face guy. Like the online stuff is new to me. And I think, I don't know. I understand the situation. So like, I understand like the stay at home orders but you just got to make the most of it of what you're doing.
So besides school, how have you stayed busy?
My dad's the high school principal, so he talks to the elementary principal from our town a lot, and he's actually been remodeling his house. So pretty much like 2 or 3 days a week, I'll go over to his house and help him remodel his house. And then in the turn, he has some weight equipment in his garage, and so I'll be able to lift weights at his house. So I've actually been able to, stay up in the weight room.
Obviously, the weight room is very important for a strong guy like yourself.
Yeah.
How are you adjusting to that? I've talked to a lot of different guys, and they've had different answers in terms of keeping their body in shape during this time.
Yeah. Well, and it's different because, like being an athlete, we obviously have Coach Kozak, and we have a plan for us, like what to do. So it's interesting to see, how much you've learned from that, and like what you can take away and what you can do on your own when a coach isn't there, and just, running with it.
How badly are you missing football? What are you missing most right now as we're getting closer and closer to that time where you would be starting to gear up for a fall camp?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me is like, I love being around the guys and all the players, and, they're my teammates, and I'm really close to them. And some of them are my best friends that I've met in college. And so like, I miss the community and just being able to go out there and like, I love the game of football. So just being able to do what you love, like, it's just that's what I miss the most.
Yeah. We've all been finding our different things to keep our attention and keep us busy during this time. And a lot of us are watching shows. I don't know about you, Parker, but I've been watching The Last Dance, the documentary.
Oh, yeah.
with the Chicago Bulls, and a lot of it is Michael Jordan. So I wanted to ask you about that a little bit. First of all, have you been watching that?
Yes, I have.
So I grew up idolizing Michael Jordan, obviously watching the Chicago Bulls, and so I was in that era. And I think that a lot of people, there's 2 camps. There's the people like myself who have watched this and they're kind of reliving their childhood memories. But then the younger generation is getting a chance to watch Michael Jordan and maybe learn about him for the first time.
Yeah.
He's obviously a great basketball player, in my mind, the greatest of all time. But one thing that I have taken out of the documentary, Parker, is his competitive drive, the passion to win. So what I wanted to ask you, do you think that style of leadership, whether it be from an athlete or from a coach, still works today in terms of that win at all costs, drag your teammates along, that type of mentality that Michael Jordan had? Does that still work today?
I think so. Like, I think like in today's world, like you gotta handle it carefully. Like, all players are different, and you gotta learn how like your players are coached and like what they take best. Like, do they take the screaming or the yelling, or do you just got to talk to them, like, but I think, we're all there to win football games, and, I haven't met a guy that like doesn't like winning. So, it's like, why else would you be there if you weren't, wanting to win? And it's good because like the team we have now, like that's what everybody wants to do. Like we want to win a conference championship, like we want to go deep in the playoffs. Like, I think we have the right pieces, to do something like that. And it's just, I do agree with like the mentality of Michael Jordan. Like for me, like I was born in '98, so it's cool to see something like that and just being able to like take lessons from somebody that's like arguably one of the greatest of all time, and just like apply that to my game, you know?
All right, Parker, let's talk about your career. And I wanted to start off, you played at Stratford, local product, Texas Panhandle boy, and you were in Hunter Hughes' very first recruiting class back in 2017. Now, WT at that time, Parker, was coming off of 3 straight seasons of winning only 6 games. So I wanted to ask you, what sold you on coming to West Texas A&M? I'm sure you had other offers, but you came to WT, and we're certainly glad that you did.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is like Coach Hughes. I didn't decide I wanted to play football until actually my senior year of high school, and so I actually didn't have a lot of offers. And then Coach Hughes, he made the drive up to Stratford, and he actually came and saw me, and we talked to him at my school, and it was just kind of like, like this guy really does want me. And then they were talking about the new stadium at that point. Being from the Panhandle, I'd already played in Kimbrough, and so I was pumped about the new stadium, and even going to the campus. Like, they took me down for a campus tour, and it was just like, man, like this is a lot nicer than I thought it was. And even my mom, she played basketball at WT, and so that was kind of just like, she had been there, and it was kind of like a driving point for me. But it's worked out really well.
It's been interesting. The first year you redshirt, and West Texas A&M, in that first season, a lot of things were changing, a new style, new coaching staff, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the Buffs only won 3 games. They were 3-8. Now you fast forward to a couple of years into this for you, and last season you guys finished 8-3. So that's been fun to watch.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think like from the beginning, like, there's always going to be growing pains with the new coach, but I think like now, obviously you can see that we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah. So, Parker, we talked about your workouts. We talked about the weight room and how important that is. So I want to talk about this. You go back to your freshman season, your redshirt season, coming out of high school, and I can still remember this. I can remember going out to one of the fall camps and seeing you for the first time. And obviously you stood out. You're 6 feet 6 inches tall, but at that time, Parker, you were listed at 6'6", 250. And so I'm out there, and I'm watching you out there, and you are fast, you are athletic, you're obviously a tall guy. But Parker, you looked like you could have just as easily been recruited by Tom Brown to go grab rebounds and score over at the First United Bank Center. You looked like you could have been a strong basketball player. You have put a lot of work into your body to transform and get stronger each year. Last season you were listed at 6'6", 295. Talk about how you have done that and how important it's been for you to play at such a high level on the offensive line.
Well, I think from the beginning, like 250 was probably pushing it. I was probably in the 235, 240 area. So I was definitely a lot smaller than I am today. But what's crazy about that is going all the way to my senior year, I wanted to play basketball in college. And so that's what my main focus was. Oh yeah. And so like, I was actually getting recruited for basketball by some schools. And then my senior year, that's kind of like when it turned around, and then I started playing football. And then, when I get here, I'm a lineman. And so I found out real fast that, I can't be playing lineman at 240 pounds. If I want to do what I want to do, then I need to start gaining weight. And just slowly, I just started like, I got up to 260, and then all of a sudden I got up to 280, and then I got to 300. And it's crazy as I've gained weight in a good way, just how much being the proper weight for your position affects what you can do. Like, it's so much easier to move guys when you're 300 pounds and they're 260. But I think it's a slow process, and I think freshmen coming in need to know that if you are undersized, it is going to take time, and it's going to take a lot of work. Like, I had to work for 2 summers, just I had to really focus on what I was eating and what I was doing lifting wise to get me there, and it's definitely starting to pay off. And so I'm excited to see what I can do with it.
Take me through a typical day, like meal wise, right now for Parker Hanna. Just curious.
So I usually, I'll wake up and I'll eat breakfast, and that's usually like cinnamon rolls or something.
Nice.
And then my mom, being at home, like my mom, she loves cooking for me, so she'll make us a big lunch. And then usually I'll eat a snack throughout the day, and then let's see, I'll usually have a big dinner after that, and then most of the time I'll get like hungry 2 hours later and need another snack. And so I eat a lot, but I burn it off super fast.
It sounds like maybe you need to invite me to Stratford, and I can get
Yeah.
some of your mom's good cooking.
Oh yeah.
I'm only 6 feet tall. I'm about 170 pounds. I don't have red hair like you. Okay. But we have more in common than most might think. So stay with me on this. You're from small town USA, Stratford, Texas, and I hail from Beaver, Oklahoma, which you know where that is, close to Guyman, population of about 1,500. And so you and I both know what it means to drag Main Street.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing that we have in common, Parker, is we both were multi-sport athletes, being from a small town, and get a chance to play a lot of sports. And so we both played football, basketball, and then ran track. And although in my high school football, we ran the wing tee, and I was kind of a wing back, Parker, I absolutely loved blocking. And felt like when you block, it's almost like an assist in basketball. And so I always enjoyed that. And so I want to start there with you. What is it about the position for you, offensive line, that you enjoy most?
I think for me, it's just like the importance of the position, because, like without an offensive line, you're not going anywhere.
Right.
And it's a very rated position. And I think just, like, all the talks about the quarterback, or the defensive guys. But I think one of the parts about O-line that I like is just being able to know that, like, man, like I am an important player. The four guys next to me are also just as important. Like we're the wheels to this machine. And so, blocking, of course, like I love blocking, and talking trash to other guys. Like that's definitely one of the best aspects of it.
That's cool. Growing up in a small town, and it has, I think, a lot of advantages. But give me your perspective of kind of growing up small town, and then obviously you played your high school career for Stratford, which is such a rich tradition and has in not just football but in all the sports.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's crazy just because like you said, that's the high school in your little town is pretty much everything that everybody goes to. And so on a Friday night, like all the shops are closed. It's kind of like you're in a movie. Everybody's like, I'm going to the game. And I remember we used to play Canadian, and we played them in Stratford, and it seemed like half the Panhandle was there. And
Yeah,
it's a crazy environment, and I think I really love it. And yeah, it's great.
we're going to get a lot of Michael Jordan talk in this interview, but because he's on my mind. But
Yeah.
I want to talk about this, and this relates to you. So Michael Jordan, one of his most famous games, and he had a lot, but was back in 1997, before you were born. And they called it the flu game. It was in the NBA Finals. They were taking on the Utah Jazz. It was Game 5. Series is tied 2-2, and it was a tight game, and Jordan had the flu. He was sick, but he still played. And like Michael Jordan, he came through. He scored 38 points, helped the Bulls to win just by 2 points. Parker, you had a similar experience with that. I would call it the flu game up in Washington State. Tell us about that game where 2 years ago the Buffs beat Central Washington. It's one of my favorite games as a broadcaster, but you played that game sick.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's what's crazy is I didn't feel bad until the actual day of the game. And so in the morning, I started feeling awful. And then we went to the pregame meal, and I was actually getting sick at the restaurant. And then, like I just feel awful. And I remember Coach Bassett walking by, and he's like, "Are you good?" And I was like, "Coach, like, I don't know about this." And, but we didn't travel probably but 7 or 8 linemen on that trip. And we didn't have any other tackles. Like they were all guards. I mean, we could have moved guys around, and then another big guy for me for that game was Travis Vorncall. He came up to me and he's like, "Parker, you got to do whatever you can to play this game. Like we need you." And that was kind of like I don't know, that was my transition into like, taking like a bigger role, just knowing how important I am. And then, but that game, it was crazy. And what's crazy about that game is, we ended up, I don't remember what rank they were, but they were a top ranked team, and, we beat them. And I think that's kind of like where everything started going together for Coach Hughes and our program, just, realizing that we can beat teams, that are, ranked above us or whatever.
That's what I thought about was, man,
Yeah.
this he's a tough guy. So Parker, last season, obviously the best season that the Buffs have had since you have been here, 8 wins, 3 losses, and the offense made a big jump last year. More points per game, more yards per game, about 363 yards per game, 31 rushing touchdowns, and so a lot of success on the offense. What, and this could be a lot of different things, but for you, what do you feel made the offense so much better last season?
I think the addition of, Coach Brown as our offensive coordinator, and what he came in and changed, and just, obviously you could see the change in the tempo of the offense. And I think that the good thing about the offense we had last year is we had a lot of weapons, and we started to use, all of those weapons instead of just, focusing on a run game. We really opened up the pass game. And I think that just the tempo and using all of our weapons really helped us last season. And then just guys buying in, and just believing in what we can do.
Yeah. All right, it's time for you to get a chance to brag about the unsung heroes, the guys in the trenches, the big dogs, the offensive line. And Parker, it's a group that I think it's 2 things. One, with Coach Bassett, with his coaching, but also the guys that he's brought in, including yourself. A lot of hard work has been put in. This offensive line just keeps getting better and better. And this next season, I think it might be the best unit that we have seen in quite some time. But talk about your fellow teammates on the offensive line.
Oh, they're great. I love being around those guys. Like, it's definitely a good, group to be with. And the thing for me is like I said, we got to be able to trust each other. And I know that, looking down the line, that like that guy's going to get his block. We got Zane, we got Chris, we got Reese, like we got Josh, like we've got a lot of tools on the line. And like you said, I'm excited for next season, just seeing what we can do. Cause I think it's almost perfect timing to, sports are going to be coming back around, and I'm just really excited to see what's going on. And like you said, with Coach Bassett, he's done a fantastic job of, when I first got here, it was also his first, full O-line job. And so there was some growing pains with that. But I think, where we are now, like he's a really detailed coach, and I think that really helps us a lot. And he has a way of, if something seems hard, he has a way of like changing the way he coaches pretty fast, even on the sideline, just saying, hey, do this or try this. And I think it's really helped us. And he's established, like we trust him as a leader, and we know that he knows what he's doing. And so it's just a lot of fun playing for him, and playing for the guys beside me too.
Yeah. I go out to the practices and I catch myself just standing over there by you guys and watching Coach Bassett teach you guys. I feel like he's a good teacher of the game.
Oh yeah, he really is.
When he first came in, the joke was that he had to get you guys beefed up because he was actually the biggest guy out there in that group.
Yeah.
Let's talk nicknames, Parker, because you got a really cool nickname. I learned this last season, the Shark, which is really cool. I'm kind of honestly probably afraid of sharks, but I'm intrigued by sharks a little bit. So tell us the story first about your nickname, the Shark.
So back when I was in high school, and the quarterback that I played for, like one day he was just walking around and he was like, "What's up, Shark?" And I was like, "Who are you talking to?" And he's like, "I'm talking to you." And so ever since then, like it kind of just grew on me. And then it was funny because, small town, like, there, like he played both ways. So I played defense too.
Yeah.
And then I was a D lineman, and sometimes when I would get a sack, like our band would start playing the Jaws theme song. Nice. And so as soon as like they kind of got on it, and then, all the little kids got on it, they'd be like, "What's up, Shark?" Like,
yeah. Not
it
not
kinda
a
just
not a
grew.
baby shark. You're not a
Oh,
baby shark
no.
though.
But the kids love it, and so I kind of just took it and went with it, and then I started thinking about it, and I was like, man, like, you know, like, what do sharks do? And for me, like, the thing that I like about sharks is like that they always have to keep going. Like, you know, they always got to keep swimming, and they're always on the hunt, and and I think that's just it's kind of like influential because it's like, man, like, you know, I just got to keep going, you know, even when things are tough, you know, or we're behind in the game, like, you just got to keep going and trust that it's going to turn out all right, you know, and just attacking people. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's a big thing. Offensive lineman is like, you got to be, you know, like, you got to go on the attack. Like, you don't want them to come to you.
You're right.
So I think that, like, the nickname, it worked out really well.
I love it. You know, my son, my 9-year-old son, he and I have been watching World's Most Dangerous Animals. We've been watching that,
Mhm.
that series. One of your fellow offensive linemen, I believe, last year was nicknamed Baby Rhino. Was that
Yeah,
Josh?
yeah, it was.
Okay. So I've got an idea because now I'm watching all these different dangerous animals. I think I'm going to get a nickname for each of the offensive linemen and specific to each guy.
Yeah.
But it's got to be one of those dangerous kind of animals. So, and
Oh, yeah.
Josh might actually graduate from baby rhino into adult size rhino.
Oh, yeah, he's a full-size rhino for sure.
When I visited with Nick Gerber a few weeks ago, he talked about maybe growing out a mustache, and he didn't have much growth at that point. It appears like you might be doing that, and maybe going to challenge him for that. But just
Yeah.
just a stash, or maybe something else.
Yeah, I'll probably keep this. And my thing is, like, I can't get the sides to grow. And so, like, I know most of the O-line guys, like, they all have big, full beard. So I'm just trying to play my part.
Parker, thanks so much for joining me today. Had a lot of fun visiting with you, and really enjoying getting a chance to know you.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Well, that is it for today's episode of Football Friday with the Buffs. Again, Buff Nation, hopefully you've really enjoyed getting a chance to know these players a little bit better. And so that's going to do it for today's show. Everyone stay safe. Everyone have a fun weekend. And as always, go Buffs.